I was kind of a slow adopter of Instagram, and one of the reasons why I think is a little similar to the arguments we're now having around AI, and that was copyright, because I knew when you signed it, you were handing over the copyright of the images to what was then Facebook. Hello and welcome, Budgeriga Mawara from the Gadigal lands here in Sydney. It's Startup 360. I'm Simon Thompson and you...
I'm Kayla Medica.
The one Kayla we have on the show. So much fun with Kaylas today. We've got two
Kayla
Kaylas.
Monopoly.
The Kayla Monopoly. Well, it's a duopoly, isn't it, if you've got two Kaylas?
Yeah. Well, the Monopoly is part of another conversation we're having. So
we're going to have that.
We'll get the link soon.
Just a minute. But before we go there, I do want to say Startup 360 is supported by Vanta, helping startups unlock market opportunities through automated compliance. And they make great stickers too. Product placement. Well done.
More
Andrew.
stickers.
Yes. Well, I've got your sticker on there too.
I know.
I'm putting them all together. And of course, the fabulous South Start team, Team Human.
But mine's your favourite, right?
Yours is, that's why it's on the top right-hand side. That's the most important part of stickers on any computer, as you know.
Can't get any higher.
How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been good. I published my newsletter again this week, as I do every week.
I know. Look, I have to say, I was reading it, and the word that struck out, word of the week, is idiolect.
I love this topic.
What now? It sounds like a Radiohead album, but what is an idiolect?
So an idiolect, you have a language, then you have a dialect, and then the next level down is an idiolect.
Yeah.
So if a dialect is a group of people speaking a language a specific way, an idiolect is an individual speaking their
language that no one can understand.
Not a language that no one can understand,
Which is why they're an idiolect.
It's all their quirks. It's all their consistencies and inconsistencies that they make. You know, sometimes you might have a friend who like mispronounces a specific word every single time they say it. That's part of their idiolect.
Ah, right. So Kath and Kim was all about idiolects.
Yes. A really good example.
Yeah, okay. Now we're talking... So why did you go down this path in the Medica newsletter this week?
So it was part of a bigger piece around like QAing your brand work and that your brand should have an idiolect. But I think from the podcast perspective, one thing that the newsletter doesn't go into this week is like, let's say you are a marketer or a PR person and you're writing an opinion piece and you're supposed to be sounding like your founder, or you're writing it from someone else's name. Understanding their idiolect is the best way to sound like them and imitate someone.
So mimicry.
It is, yeah. But you have to consciously take note of that person's idiolect to be able to mimic it.
Tell me, do you find yourself when you meet people from other countries starting to sound a bit like them? Do you do that sort of mimicry?
I will say that, as you know, I speak Japanese, and I often get told that if a Japanese person like closed their eyes and all they heard was my voice, they would think that I was Japanese.
Wow.
And I think it's because of I'm really good at the mimicry.
Oh, excellent. Let's go to monopolies. And a certain one that is currently before the courts in the US, Mark Zuckerberg. Amazing story, because the government's antitrust trial has just got underway. And it's been fascinating for a couple of details that have emerged. One of them is, of course, that we knew Zuck wanted to buy Snap along the way, or turns out for $6 billion at the time. This is a guy who's been scooping up a whole bunch of stuff, and it turns out he was also worried that he was going to get pinged for Instagram and WhatsApp, and was already trying to figure out how to offload them. Are you watching this sort of like, let's say, something like Days of Our Lives?
We'll come back to that topic later too. I haven't been on top of this news. I find it... So I was in uni when Instagram came out, and I was like an early user. And so it's interesting now as a more mature tech person to understand that when I was a user of Instagram, like downloading an app for the first time, you wouldn't have thought like, oh yeah, this is going to be successful. It was just a gimmicky, novel thing. But the people who are running the show are fully aware of like competitiveness and antitrust things and monopoly things, and they're thinking about it, and they know these like big picture plays that are happening that don't come out until 10, 15 years later.
funny, I was kind of a slow adopter of Instagram, and one of the reasons why I think is a little similar to the arguments we're now having around AI, and that was copyright, because I knew when you signed it, you were handing over the copyright of the images to what was then Facebook. But a lot of my photographer friends seemed comfortable and happy with it, so eventually was convinced to join them. I haven't posted on it for a couple of years now, but it's that whole brand ownership, going back to that idea, I think, and now that we're in the age of AI repurposing of everyone's content, it's an interesting space, especially with what Meta's been doing, because there's been other details that have been emerging around, stealing books, for example, in recent weeks, that this is a company that everyone is deeply concerned about. I want to talk a little bit about Ricky Sutton, who's a writer I really admire. He's on Medium and has written, Substack, sorry, got to get them right, and was writing about this. And I'll quote a little bit, just so you know what's going on. So Mercurial billionaire Mark Zuckerberg told the Federal Trade Commission he was hit and miss on building winning products, and buying smaller winners was a strategy, hence the snap. So that was 2013. CEO Evan Spiegel, husband of Aussie supermodel Miranda Kerr, thanks for sticking that in there, Ricky, keeping it local, turned him down. Zuck told colleagues he just wants to build a company on his own. The court also saw internal Meta emails from 2018 where he discussed spinning Instagram off over antitrust fears and his worries about WhatsApp. He also banned ads from global competitors, including WeChat and Kakao.
Yeah.
Because it reads like chocolate, Easter theme there, but it's spelt with a K, like Kayla, which he considered emerging rivals. These companies are trying to build social networks and replace us, he wrote to execs. The revenue is immaterial to us compared to any risk. Meta's lawyer Mark Hansen told the court that only the paranoid survive, quoting a popular ideology from the dog-eat-dog world that's rife in Silicon Valley. Thoughts?
Interesting take. So it kind of reminds me a bit of Elon, where, his public brand and image until fairly recently was that he was this innovator, but he never actually was the creator of most of his products and companies.
You mean the very famous Tesla co-founder?
Yes, the Tesla co-founder who didn't co-found Tesla, but also like PayPal. He bought Twitter, he bought Tesla. He bought, he didn't, I don't know if he bought SpaceX, but like he's not the one building, he's not a rocket scientist. He's not the one creating it.
He inserted himself into that one too.
So yeah, it's the buy or build question happens a lot in tech, and you have the famous like Google won't buy solutions, they will build their own. For Mark to also be I don't actually have any more good ideas after the original concept for Facebook, which also wasn't his, and he just buys them. It's like, maybe to be successful in life, you just need to be rich.
It's kind of like, I feel at times like tech is sort of the Genghis Khan model. If you get enough elephants and you storm over enough mountains.
Well, it's the same as WeWork.
I should say, yes.
Yeah, WeWork's whole strategy was we just have to have more office space than the competitors, even if it's not profitable, because then they won't be able to compete. That's all it is. Too
big to be eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild because, of course, you then sort of become territorial and sort of you steal the wealth and resources of other countries, something that's going on a little bit at the moment. A book I loved reading a long time ago, been reading again. Apparatchik in this book says, "The party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We're interested solely in power. Not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness. Only power, pure power." And then he goes on to say, "Obedience is not enough unless he is suffering. How can you be sure that he is obeying your will and not his own? Power is in inflicting pain and humiliation." Remind you of anyone at the moment?
Where do I start?
Yeah.
But it's like power gives you the illusion of all those other things. It gives you the illusion that you'll have long life, that you'll have good health, that you can have anything you want. So I'm not surprised that the motivation is purely just power.
That's George Orwell, 1984. And it kind of sounds like the current government in the US. It was kind of extraordinary sort of seeing that and just realising that we're kind of basically playing an anti-dystopian novel playbook right now.
History repeats itself. I also saw a hot take recently that was saying that all these, like, the AI topic of not so much like what's it used for, it's going to take over human jobs, but like just offloading all of your own thinking and just getting AI to do it for you. So instead of having any critical thinking skills, people are like, what do I need that for? I just have AI. I can write my essays. It can do my homework. It can do my research. They were comparing that to the rise of fascism and how it goes hand in hand with an anti-intellectual movement. Because the less educated the public is and the less critical thinking the public has, the less they can identify misinformation.
Finally, first of all, tell us who we've got on the show today, because we haven't mentioned that, and we've got two great guests.
So my favourite guest is named Kayla Parry,
really?
founder of Job Matched, and our first guest
just launched this week. She's just up and running. It's like we've got baby founder on the show.
And our first week this week is the CEO of ACS,
Josh Griggs. Yes. And they've been doing a lot of work in the policy space, especially coming up to the election. I went to a great panel there last week where a whole bunch of really, really smart people talked about what we need to do around issues like commercialisation and R&D. Before we go, I do want to congratulate Elon Musk. He's the master of downsizing, you know. Did it at Twitter where he got rid of all the jobs. He's doing it in the government right now. And this week he did it on the savings he was going to make. He's gone from $2 trillion, which is why he was such a genius coming to do this, to changing it to $1 trillion when he finally took over in charge of Doge, but not in charge, as he likes to pretend. This week he announced $150 billion is the saving, which basically is the loose change down the back of the couch of the American economy. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who's better at walking back promises, Elon Musk or Peter Dutton?
Musk doesn't, at least Dutton, I would say, walks back from the promise and acknowledges it. Musk doesn't do that. He just moves the goalposts and that's it. Nothing else to be discussed because, you know, he pretends every time that everything's fine, everything's normal, and just keeps going. It's like promising, you know, self-driving cars for the last 10 years, which still haven't turned up. Anyway, well done, Elon. $150 billion. You've probably done $1 trillion worth of damage to the US economy,
spare change.
along with your co-president. But anyway.
Shall we keep going and get our guests on?
Let's do this. All right, we'll be right back with our first guest, Josh Griggs. Welcome back to Startup 360, and we're joined by our first guest today, Josh Griggs, the CEO of ACS, the IT member organisation with an astonishing 50,000 members. I reckon that's more than the SCG. You couldn't fit every ACS member in the SCG, which is my benchmark for how big something is. Great to have you, Josh. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
For people who maybe are just hearing ACS for the first time and going, wait, what? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so ACS is the Australian Computer Society, and we represent all the individuals in the tech sector within Australia. So we do have 50,000 members, and we focus really our three kind of core areas are around community. So making sure we've got a community for people to interact and share ideas and make sure that they're sort of up to date with things that are going on in the industry. Secondly, around capability, so ensuring that we have enough capability in the country for IT and IT tech workers and supporting people on that journey, so a journey of lifelong learning. And then finally, career, so making sure that we sort of connect to employment opportunities, elevate employment opportunities for people, ensure that we have enough people coming through to fill those jobs within the tech sector as well.
So is it kind of like the NRMA of IT, or is it sort of a bit different?
No, the real focus is on the individual to ensure that they have access to and are able to develop their skills over time. And we're about attracting the right amount of individuals into the tech sector to ensure we've got a pipeline of talent for the ongoing competitiveness of the country. And then we do a fair bit of policy work back with government, and our sort of three main sort of areas of focus are around elevating cybersecurity, AI, and in particular safe and responsible usage of AI, and skills are our three main policy areas. And we now have an emerging policy which really relates to commercialisation of intellectual property in the country. We are seeing too many startups and scale-ups leaving, to get through the sort of valley of death, as they call it, and get some funding to ensure that they can commercialise and grow.
Community is interesting because I feel like it's gone through quite a few different phases of like what would be offered as a community and called community, and now there's like specializations for running communities, and that's become a real career path. What is the value of a community that ACS offers?
So we actually have a branch in every state, and we have elected officials that run all those branches. So we've got deep connection to a local community. So you've got a physical presence and ability to interact with people, network with people, reach out to people about, it might be mentoring, or it might be needing advice on the way to attack a sort of IT problem. The scope is kind of endless. We run over 350 events a year, which range from, students and connection to job and how do you get a job, or networking events for employment opportunities, through to deep technical training and deep technical analysis. Some of those events you wouldn't want to be at. Then there is, the round tables.
There will be people who are quite excited.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of the community, right? There is something for everyone, no matter how deep technical you are, or whether you want to try and influence the government on policy. So we run a lot of government roundtables on policy. And, with the election forum that we just did on Tuesday, we had over 100 representatives from industry across all of the associations. So 34 associations were represented, some big corporates were represented, big tech was represented, universities, startups, scale-ups, venture capital. So it's really bringing that whole ecosystem together to ensure that we've got the individuals within the industry have got a voice.
As a follow-up to that, like post-COVID, do you see that the demand for in-person is growing?
It's actually quite interesting. We do get... So we get high attendance at the events. There is probably less related to those big and long events. So people want smaller events that they can fit into their day a bit better. So sort of, up to about 3 hours kind of works. There is less of the sort of, it's more about learning and more about connection and more about understanding what's happening in the industry, whereas traditionally it kind of used to be all about the drinks and the nibbles, whereas now it's more about what are you going to get out of the actual event, and is it going to elevate your understanding of various different things.
Well, I can thoroughly endorse, I did enjoy the nibbles the other night at the ACS election forum, which is part of what I wanted to talk to you about. We've got the election coming up in just a few weeks. And there was a bit of a deep dive with a couple of panels on that one, and we were also asked for our opinion on priorities. There's a couple of big things, and the likes of Charlie Ill, the CEO of Investable, was there. Roy Green from UTS was one of the advisors. Phil Moyle from Main Sequence, and the chief scientist, who Darren White was chairing this panel, that I absolutely thought was amazing, because the conversation was around risk aversion. And, the R&D sector and the effort that we need to put in, because I think there's a sense that we're getting to a crisis level. We've watched sliding investment in R&D. The government doesn't seem to be that enthusiastic. It makes noises, but I'm not sure that we're fixing it. We're having another review of the R&D TI. What's ACS's view going into the election on what it would like to see and where it wants the government to go?
So we are pretty clear that we want to see commercialisation of intellectual property being elevated as a policy. We don't like the fact that a large number of our startups and scale-ups are having to leave the country to get funding. we are incredibly good as a country in research. So we produce something like 3% of the world's research. But then there is a gap for us in commercialising that. And typically we are seeing too many of our startups and scale-ups needing to go overseas to get that funding and create that last step in commercialisation of the intellectual property. We think it's a key gap, and a gap that we as an organisation need to do more about by bringing the ecosystem together and enabling that collaboration between industry and universities and research and startups, and then bringing the capital to the table as well. But for me, at both a personal level and an organisational level, we want to ensure that Australia gets to the point where we are the leader in commercialisation of intellectual property. So the situation we have at the moment is we are extraordinarily good and produce unicorns and the like when they get through the valley of death, but not enough for getting through the valley of death, and they're actually departing our shores to do so.
Because another important part of what ACS does is it has River City Labs up in Brisbane, Harbour City Labs here. Nice, great spot if you're a first-time founder. You're down here at Barangaroo staring out at the harbour. I'm not sure you get work done because it's such a great view. But are founders saying this to you? Are you hearing this directly from them, and that's part of what's keeping them awake at night?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were part of South Start, so we were one of the big sponsors down at South Start, and we sort of announced that we were having a policy direction on this, and we're deeply concerned about it. And it resonated a lot with the startup and scale-up community, and it also resonated with the venture capital community and the universities and the industry. So I think we're definitely onto something. It is a gap in the market. It is something that we need to focus on collectively to be able to close that gap, and it will ensure that we have a better, brighter future for people in tech.
It feels like everyone's united. So what do? Do we drive trucks down to Canberra and sort of go round and round Parliament House until they come out and talk to us? What do we need to do?
Well, like the government themselves aren't against it. They're actually pro it, and there's a lot of initiatives being done within government grants, and also with some of the state governments are quite advanced in the things that they're doing. But it is not a coordinated approach. So we need to bring it together and kind of bring the right people to the table to work through what does it look like and what are some of the solutions that we can put in place. Effectively, it is about connection to capital at the right time with a more less risk aversion approach. So Australians don't like to fail, and so there is a bit of a risk aversion out there. The capital markets are conservative, and they can afford to be because they've got a lot of choice. And so it's bridging that gap. We do have some plans in that space, but and we'll hopefully be announcing them in the next sort of month. But events like Tuesday night, where you bring the preeminent bodies and the preeminent people in the industry together to work on closing down those gaps, is the right pathway. We do have several recommendations within the paper based on the election forum, so we will be presenting that to government. I think the details will be available, and we'll be publishing those reports for people to be able to access, and welcome any feedback on what they think could happen. And
I have got some of the details up on startupdaily.net for people to read over Easter weekend.
Perfect. I don't want to stop the traffic coming to your site. So
thanks, mate.
I won't talk about it too much.
Yeah, you got to find out all the details there.
Yeah.
Seeing as the podcast is supposed to be about founder fun, not founder mode, I wanted to ask you some fun questions.
Okay.
What do you do to wind down?
So I'm a big sailor. I love sailing. So I do the twilight racing out of the CYC every Wednesday with a lot of the guys in the tech industry, actually. So we've been sailing together for about 20 odd years. I love that. Great way to break up the week. Also,
what kind of boat are you sailing?
North Shore 38.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the crew's pretty handy.
Yeah.
So typically on the podium, which is a great result for us. And then I love snowboarding as well. Go to the beach and hang out with the kids. Yeah.
Very non-techie, like offline, real world activities.
You had a pretty sort of heavy-hitting corporate career and came into ACS, I think it was in December 2023 as interim CEO, and they've been going through a fair bit of change and reset, and then took on the role full-time, I think in June last year. What drew you to it? What was the appeal at this point in your career?
Well, to me, it's the impact, right? So when you're in the corporate world and you might be running big managed services providers and things, typically your focus is the skills related to what gets you a better deal from whatever you're selling, or gets you a better contract. The individual in that is not getting developed well enough, and so that whole making sure that people have got a pathway to a better job and a better career, I think, is really key, and the impact that we're having and the reach of ACS in terms of we're doing Young Tech Ambassadors in Queensland, supported by the Queensland Government to do so, which means we've spoken to over 30,000 students to get them interested in tech. Oh, wow. We're looking at we're doing a lot of work with curriculum in Tasmania. So Minister Maddie down there is very supportive. So Minister for Innovation, very supportive of the Tasmanian marketplace and wants to drive startups and scale-ups in that market. So we're testing curriculum work in Tasmania to support the teachers to ensure that we've got a curriculum which is a lot better than kind of the current one is kind of like pretty boring. And, if you want to be a systems administrator, then you're going to pick a tech subject at school. Nobody is picking it because it is boring. But there is so much cool stuff that we're doing and so much fun stuff that's out there. So it's on to us to ensure that we can support the teachers to ensure they've got the right curriculum that then, attracts the students. And then the kind of the other really big aspect for me is supporting alternative pathways into tech. Mm-hmm. So alternative pathways, at the moment, 10% of our tech workforce comes from the universities. They do a magnificent job, but it's only going to represent 10%. We've got 50% are born overseas, so skilled migration is critical for mm-hmm. the competitiveness of the country. And then 40% come from alternative pathways. Now, the alternative pathways are not well recognised or certified properly. So we are going about doing that. And in doing so, that will open up tech jobs to, will potentially drive far more females into the industry. Despite our best efforts over the last decades, only we're a 1% increase in female participation, which is not good enough. We are underrepresented in First Nation participation as well. We are rock stars when it comes to neurodivergent, though. So as an industry, we are the employer of choice for the neurodivergent. There are, and so those supporting alternative pathways into tech and ensuring that we've got teachers supported and we're attracting the right people for school and giving them the ability to actually have a great pathway. If they're not, good on the tools and they don't like school, then IT is a great spot to be.
Go back to fun.
Go back to fun?
Not boring you?
No, not at all. No, I just think that's so important, but that blows me away. It's only 10% university students. Of course, half of our tech population comes from overseas, which is a reminder in the current debate around migration. Mm. But I love the alternative pathways part too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One last fun question.
Mm-hmm.
I love that your hobbies are not screen based. What do you think about kids who have screen time? What's the...
Oh, look, I'm all for it. My son will be sitting there and playing with his mates, Fortnite and other things. And I kind of don't get it, but since COVID, he'll also be on the phone with the same people, and the camera will be on, but it'll be pointed at the ceiling or up his nostril, and it doesn't seem to care. But there is a lot of really good interaction that they get from that. I do think you've got to balance that out and ensure that. Typically, you want it in your public areas of your house, so that they're not getting bullied online and those kind of things. So there are downsides to it. So you've got to watch out for that. But yeah, I'm all for it. Get into it. Get amongst it. Get them onto AI. Get them prompting like a boss. But then also get out of the house. Go surfing. Play a bit of rugby. Play a bit of sport. Do some other things. So it's critical to have that balance.
Yeah.
And I just remember that growing up when sort of Steve Jobs and Woz were just actually building their first computers, we all used to clog the phone line for hours.
Yeah.
That was the difference. It was just like you got on the phone and did the same thing. They're just doing it with a mobile now, and with the video pointed at the ceiling.
Although I have to laugh at your mention of like make sure they're not getting bullied online, because I was saying to a friend the other day maybe we should bring back cyberbullying for all the people who make stupid posts on LinkedIn. Enough of this.
All my bad jokes.
Yeah.
That's not cyberbullying. That's just real life bullying.
Yeah, that's right. Show up there physically and bully them.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh Griggs, thanks for joining us from ACS. Look forward to your continued work, especially around governments for the election. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thanks a lot for having me. Cheers.
We'll be right back with our 10X session and another Kayla.
Welcome back to 10X. We've got our 10X guest, Kayla Parry, this time not Medica. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Give us a little intro into who you are and what you're working on.
My name's Kayla. I am...
Woohoo, very popular name around here.
Absolutely. I am a founder. I own a beauty salon as well, but I've just launched a new tech startup called Job Matched. I'm doing my MBA. I'm doing lots of things. Very busybody.
Oh. Okay, first 10X question for you. From one Kayla to another.
Yeah.
When you order a coffee, what's the most common incorrect name you get?
Funny enough, this coffee here, it just was spelt wrong. It was Kaila, not YLA, which was funny. But usually it's...
That's not bad, though.
Yeah, or I always get Taylor.
Yes, that's what I was checking
Always
for.
get Taylor. And
Before,
I'm like, no.
like, Taylor Swift truly became what she was, I would never get misheard as Taylor. And now every time I get a coffee, I have to say Kayla with a K.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say. Same
Otherwise,
thing.
it's Taylor.
Yeah. Also, in America, the way we say Kayla, it sounds like you're OR. So, you know.
Well, that brings me to my question, because that accent doesn't sound like it's Gosford. Tell us your story.
So, I moved to Australia when I was 18. I had a bit of a rocky upbringing, and I just wanted to get out of town, get out of Dodge. And so
But it wasn't Dodge.
Yeah. You know, the funny, way back when online stuff was still a little bit sketchy, I had made an account on an online website for au pairs, and it's funny I say match because I use that word with my company now, but it kind of was linked up with this family, and we did a Skype. That's how old this is, this story. Skype session. And I Google Earthed the address, and I said, that looks real. And 3 weeks later, I had expedited my passport and turned 18 and was on a plane here. So...
Wow, you came out as an au pair.
Yeah.
Wasn't for Peter Dutton, was it?
No. But yeah, and I never left. I absolutely fell in love with it here. So...
Excellent.
We're always happy to have another Kayla. There's never too many.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to throw it around for a second. Where did your Kayla come from? How did you become... Because you weren't named after Taylor Swift, that famous American singer.
I don't know who that is. No, apparently the story I was told is that I was named after a Days of Our Lives character. Although I've watched Days of Our Lives and I've never actually seen this alleged character called Kayla.
Yeah.
I think she was like a side character in one episode and my mom just was like, that's a nice name.
That's so funny. I wish I knew. I know she's probably told me. My mom thought I think before me, she was going to have a boy, or she thought it was a boy, something like that. And his name was going to be Caleb.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
I have one last Kayla thing. Because it's not that common of a name. So, like, when it comes up, it's, like, reasonably, like, novel. There was a TikTok that was really viral, and it was the guy in the art gallery. Oh, my
I know
God,
the sound.
So he's like, it's just a guy walking around and the caption is like, when you, like everything reminds you of your ex, and he's looking at like a painting of a woman, and then the voiceover is just like, oh yeah, it's a nice painting. Looks like your ex, that bitch Kayla. And like every person I knew sent it to me.
There have been a couple like viral reels with something similar to that, and I laugh every time. I'm like, I never get, it's not like Samantha or something, I don't know, Taylor. Yeah, I love it.
Back to 10X.
Anyway, that was a nice diversion down the world of Kayla's.
Yeah. You have to make the most of it.
You've had a very creative-based career, worked in beauty, worked in magazines and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to ask, where do you go when you need creative inspiration?
Honestly, I have ADHD and I just go right into this head of mine. It's just crazy. And I go down rabbit holes. Physically, it's usually me at 2 a.m. hyper-focused on something random. That's just, yeah.
Any favorite hyper-focuses at the moment?
Yeah, I have this thing, I keep myself up at night and I'm like, I need to go to sleep, and I don't, and I sit there doing voice notes on my phone. And it's just, there's something I'm interested in, something that's very far off. Obviously, I've just launched Job Match on Monday, and then I'm sitting here thinking, oh, what's the next thing I can do? It's crazy. But it's just, I'm really into biotech at the moment, and wearable tech that integrates with AI. That stuff is fascinating to me. So that's my hyper-focus right now.
So tell me, what made you want to be a founder? Did you have a light bulb moment where you thought, yes, this is it?
No, I always knew it wasn't even like, oh, I know this. It was like, I always wanted to do my own thing. I mean, when I was like 10 years old, I was making jewelry and selling it to the old ladies in my apartment building. Like, that was just... And it's not something you think, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur or I'm going to have my own business. It was just a thing I did. Even, when I moved here, I was working in offices, but in the same time, I was sitting there and printing off documents, because it was before technology really took off. Printing documents off ASIC on how to start a business when I was like 19. I was like, how can I make something my own? How can I do this?
Printing off ASIC documents sounds more like OCD than ADHD.
No, well, to be fair, I probably have a little bit of both.
Look, I think back when you were 19, there was no online form for ASIC, so printing was the only option.
Exactly. You couldn't just pull it up on your phone. And I was sitting there printing all this, how to start a business, as checklists, and I actually probably still have them. I've got like a little, the little
memory box,
file folder, briefcase looking for your documents, and I probably still have that in there. But yeah, it was just like, I just always thought there's a problem, and it was never me looking for a problem. If something would arise, I thought, I want to solve this. It was just this deep feeling of, I have to fix this. Maybe it is OCD.
It's not a bad one to have, though.
Yeah.
Fixing things.
Yeah.
So in addition to having just launched Job Match, you also own another business, the beauty salon.
Yes.
How do you balance work, life, and then like business?
Well, it's a lot of people talk, oh, you need balance, you need, for health, your health, and I just don't.
Is that the ADHD?
I kind of just do what I have to do. I do what needs to be done. In a single day. For instance, the Idea to Impact. I went to that and then went home, changed, went to the salon, did clients, went back to my house, worked on Job Matched. And it's not even, how do I keep things balanced? It's like, how do I make sure I get everything done? I think especially in the beginning of a founder's journey, it really is just about getting it done. So... but I time block things. I use, tools especially with my brain, to help keep things organized. I've got staff in the salon who really understand how I am and how my brain works. And that's a key thing for being able to run that, and being able to depend on them, so that I can also step to the side and work on Job Matched.
What surprised you most about launching your startup? It's brand new, actually went live on Monday. Take us through that moment where you're sitting there going, what's going to happen? And what did happen? So it's not a launch day without technical difficulties, and we had a few. But there I worked with my developers, and we figured out workarounds, and we're like, all right, we're just going to have to keep going. Like, we've set this date, it's happening. Ashley, I've brought on to do PR stuff for me. She was a huge driving force in that. When I first started this, the scope for this project was 36 weeks. It's been 2.5 years that I've been building this. And I know that tech blows out. I know that happens quite a bit, but
I just never put a date. I thought I'll leave it, you know, in the hands of those who are helping me build it. And Ashley goes, no, set a date. And she really pushed me to do that. And so I was just too scared of doing it, not getting to that point, not reaching it, or something going wrong. And when I got to that point, things went wrong, and it was okay. It was actually okay. And it was really nice to be around the people who've been so supportive through the whole time, because it just took a lot of that stress away. Yeah.
And well done to Ashley.
There's the famous quote of, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, then you're taking too long to put it out.
Yeah, it's a big thing for me. I've always struggled to do something until it was 100%, and with this I thought I just have to do it. I have to just put it out, and we will grow.
Out of all the jobs you've had and things you've worked on, what is kind of like a crazy behind the scenes thing that people don't realize happens? Like, I'm thinking specifically when you were doing magazine shoots. Like, what's it like to be on a set? I've worked and done a lot of photo shoot work. I used to also run backstage for bodybuilding competitions, so all the tanning, hair, makeup for the athletes. It's not really even crazy. You get so comfortable with people, and I guess in my business as well, the things that I'm comfortable with now, you know, seeing men and women just walking around naked and just, you know, touching up on under their bum cheeks with tan or whatever the case may be, like very...
Is this why you're calling Job Match like a dating app for...
No.
It's like, why have you got to get naked just to sort of, you know, get a job?
No way. It's just funny because I guess that's probably the most extreme thing where I will do whatever I have to do to make sure that things are right for my clients. And, you know, those are some extremes that you go to.
Was there ever an awkwardness of, like, when you first started being like, could you just lift up this butt cheek? Let me get in there.
Look, my mom growing up, she was in the medical field, so the birds and the bees, the human body, that was just so normal it was never a weird thing. And so I've gone into it, and I'm like, and the clients get very shy, you know, because you're tanning men, 40, 50-year-old men who are doing masters in, you know, bodybuilding, and they're like, strip down, get naked, and they're just like, ooh. You know? And I'm like, doesn't bother me, it's fine, you know, but yeah.
I feel like I should be getting some bum touch-up tips. Just so
Do you need a fake tan?
I'll tan you.
Pasty white guy is just fine. Besides, the women in my life do that, and I'm kind of the guy who ends up having to nappy sand the clothes where all of the fake tan ends up rubbing off on. So, just happy to stay away from that.
That's why you got to do it naked and then walk around naked until it's dry.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in my salon, we set our clients with special powder I have in there so that they're not sticky and it's not all gross.
Do you feel like your confidence around people has translated into being a tech founder?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually have struggled with imposter syndrome my whole life. I really have, thinking, who do I think I am doing any of this? But as I've grown and as I've gone on, I realize I can do this. I know what I'm doing. And the first person to do anything didn't know what the hell they were doing. So, you know, it's just, yeah, that confidence absolutely translates.
Cool. Now, given we're talking about employers and employees, tell me, what's the worst thing that employers do during hiring and, of course, people job hunting?
So I think that people, this might be a debatable topic, but people, of course you need technical skills, but I think people overlook the culture fit within a candidate and making sure that they're right for your team and the role and the culture within the company. Because you can teach skills, I'm not talking about medical or law degree type stuff, but you can teach technical skills to a point, and you can't teach someone how to fit in, right? You need to make sure that you're hiring the right people for your team.
Excellent point. And is there anything in terms of the people, because I think we've all had those moments where we're tried to hire somewhere and you kind of send out the contract and then never hear from them again, or whatever it is. What have you seen? And how does Job Match solve these problems?
Yeah, so with Job Match, I created a and I wrote an algorithm that matches people. They do the job seeker will take an onboarding test, like a personality test, and it will give them their top soft skills. And when an employer goes to post an ad, they'll select what's most relevant to the culture of the role. And that is part of the weighting system that matches the right people with the right role. It's taking into account their personality and who they are as a person, not just on paper. They're not just a resume now. Like they're shining through as a human.
Yeah.
Sounds clever. I'm just worried that I'd come through as unemployable once I've done the psych test. So we'll see on that one.
Well, I don't know how many jobs there are for podcast host, so maybe you've just lucked out.
Yeah, or slightly crazy tech editors.
I haven't been counting questions because I've just been going off script. So one more from me.
Yep.
Outside of the business, what's a personal goal you have?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. Fun fact, I skydive.
Oh my God.
As a sport, I love it. But
could
I
never.
really want to get my pilot's license. That's a huge goal for me. I want to travel a bit more, but I've really have my nose down right now while I'm building what I'm building, so I haven't done a lot of traveling.
I kind of feel like skydiving is the perfect sport for founders because you suddenly find yourself falling rapidly towards the earth and you have to find a solution.
Exactly.
I mean, you need to already have the solution.
But I think there's this bliss when you're falling and most people would panic and you're just like, I've got this. I
think we've found the path where us as Kayla's diverse because I would never skydive.
It's my favorite feeling in the whole world. I love it. Yeah.
All right, final question. And I think we're right. I think we've got 10. Our listeners and viewers will sort of let us know if we got it wrong. But it's been a great conversation anyway. AI,
Yes.
right? It's part of what you're doing. Is it really worth the fuss?
Oh gosh, I love this. And this comes back to my hyper-focus thing that I was talking about. I think AI is an incredible tool. I think people are very scared of it, thinking, it's going to overtake us. We need to shift our perspective. We need to realize we're able to advance our own human intelligence by using AI as a tool. And I think once we understand that and we kind of grasp that, then it becomes this really like the possibilities are endless for us. I think it's absolutely worth it. I think things are only going to get better from here. Obviously, there are things that need to be taken into consideration, the ethical side of things. But yeah, I am a big AI fanatic. I love it.
So it's not going to rise up and kill us all?
Look, I'm not going to say no because who knows? But I think if you have people who are building these things and they're doing things, with humans in mind and they're putting, the right parameters in place. I don't really know. I'm not a developer, but no, I think that we can manage this stuff.
Bonus question from me. What do you think you have the quirkiest use case for AI is in your personal or business life?
I think a lot of people now are using it for therapy. I have a therapist. I swear by it. Everyone should talk to someone. But I definitely use it to chat about my feelings sometimes, which I love. It's quite funny. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. Have a great Easter. I hope you enjoy your chocolate bilby and chill time, sleep time. What's the plan?
Cat sitting. I'm cat sitting this weekend.
Cat sitting. You're going to be a cat lady all weekend.
For 4 days.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. This show is a Pinstripe Media production, produced and edited by Matt Jackson. Thanks to Ella Walsh, to James Vass, and to Vanta for their support. Thanks, Andrew, for the sticker too. Subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Don't forget to read startupdaily.net for all the ANZ tech news for free. And I've got a piece that I'm putting up on chocolate this weekend, so you can read that. All right. Have a great Easter, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.